Hey everybody, Big J here, and yes, this is Big J's gaming pad where I go and venture in doing other videos that go beyond gaming and all that, and also involve movies and all that. Well, here's a new series that I've just decided to do. It's called the Movie Conspiracy Theory series, and yeah, and so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the holiday classic, Home Alone. And, this year marks the big 3-0 for Home Alone since it came out in theaters 30 years ago. And, when I was a kid growing up, I spent a lot of time watching these movies, especially Home Alone 2. In fact, I actually watched Home Alone 2 a whole lot more than I did the first original Home Alone. And, in fact, I'd sometimes get the two of them a little mixed up because Home Alone 2 was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. When I was 5 years old, my mom takes me to the theater for the very first time. But now, the reason why I was like 5 years old when I first went to the movie theater is because if I had went to the movies younger than that, I probably would have been making a lot of noise and I would have been being very disruptive towards others on account of the fact that I have autism. And, I was very hyperactive as a kid, and it would have been hard for me to go to the movies for the first time at, like, say, 3 years old, unlike a lot of other people, but it's a little beside the point. And, but Home Alone was a very big movie franchise, even of the 90s, They even had, like, merchandise of Home Alone, like little tape recorders that Kevin had in the second movie, dolls of Kevin McCallister. It was just a very widened franchise of the 90s. They even made video games and all that too, and those video games I just didn't really have very much luck with. I've played the first video game on the Super Nintendo years ago, and I really couldn't get much with it. And so many people have done reviews on the Home Alone video games, which is why I've never really took it upon myself to review those games, but I might someday. In this life, never say never to anything. That's just the truth. But anyway, in this video, I am going to be talking about the very first Home Alone movie that came out in 1990, 30 years ago, just a couple weeks ago, made it its 30th anniversary. And it's going to be a conspiracy theory about Kevin's Uncle Frank and Peter McCallister, his father's brother. Now, I will warn you in advance, if you are really a big fan of this movie and really like it a lot and don't want your favorite all-time movie ruined on account of the way this conspiracy theory may sound, if you think it's going to change your opinion about the movie and like how you watch it for the rest of your life, I would advise you not to continue. Well, anyway, I will go on ahead and begin with the conspiracy theory of Frank McCallister in Home Alone. Okay, so we start out with the movie, and, you see, like, all this stuff happening in the movie. Harry's there dressed as a police officer, but Frank is actually the mastermind of this whole plot. And we're about to see it right here when the pizza man is there. Frank shouts, "Pizza's here," and then the pizza boy asks for $122.50, and then he says the words, "It's my brother's house. He'll take care of it." You get that? It's his brother's house. He'll take care of it, because, Frank, unlike his brother Peter, he doesn't have a lot of wealth and everything, and it's like he's very greedy and, just can't really have enough to be had and all that, because unlike his brother Peter and his other brother in Paris that they're about to visit, Rob, Frank obviously doesn't have that much income and everything. In fact, for all we know, his wife Leslie probably does all the work and ways of getting money to support him and his kids. Anyway, so, it's like Frank, he's just greedy, he just wants after his brother's wealth and all that and gets all excited over it and is really that destined and everything. Well, anyway, that's one piece of the puzzle right here. And then here in just a couple minutes from there, you see the McCallister family. They have dined in, they're eating the pizzas, and about every single pizza they have ordered persists of the toppings of sausage, olives, and onions. I didn't even see any pepperoni pizzas here. It's like maybe the McCallisters just don't care for pepperoni, and since that's like the leading topping, kind of leads me on to believe the McCallisters aren't your typical pizza eaters, if they seem to detest pepperoni. Well, anyway, Kevin digs, and he looks around the kitchen to see if there was a plain cheese pizza, because obviously Kevin doesn't like pepperoni or any toppings, as he just says here in a few minutes. And and then he asks if anybody ordered a plain cheese, and then Buzz apparently scarfed down the whole cheese pizza and ate the whole thing himself. And that's just the thing, even when I was that young, a teenager, I still wasn't allowed to eat a whole pizza, but I do now because I'm a grown-up and I have the right to ruin my whole appetite at times if I want to, if I see fit. But anyway, that's a little beside the point. And then after Buzz says that somebody's going to have to barf it all up because it's gone, he insults and mocks Kevin. And, Frank may have put him up to this because even just before this happened, Fuller, his son, asks, "What time do we have to go to bed?" And he immediately jumps and says, "Early, we're leaving the house at 8 a.m. on the button." Yeah, another piece of the puzzle right there. And even another piece of the puzzle is that Frank may have inevitably asked Buzz to pull off this thing that would get Kevin worked up so that he would attack him. As he did, he shoves Buzz and knocks milk and pop all over the passports and everything, and the only way the passports could still be valid is if they were waiting in the microwave to be dried off. And anyway, Kevin's sent to the third floor and everything, and Frank knows that, this has put the family under so much drama and everything that this is also the chance to strike up another plan. They all go to bed, and after the scene where it shows Kevin makes that wish saying that his family would disappear, well, anyway, there came a big kind of wind blow. I'm not really sure if it was a storm, but there was kind of a strong wind. But you see that little Santa Christmas decoration on the front door of the McCallister's household kind of spinning back and forth. And then you see after that the tree branch, it breaks and all that, and it hits the power line, and then it causes a power outage in the middle of the night. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe the wind was responsible for this branch blowing over and knocking over the power lines. Well, not a lot of proof that could be it, because for all we know, Frank could have woke up in the middle of the night, snuck into the McCallister's garage, his brother Peter's garage, and got maybe a saw or something, and sawed that branch so it would fall directly on the power line, knowing that it was going to make him wake up in disarray the next morning with an inevitable chance of leaving Kevin behind, knowing that he's on the third floor all by himself. And that's just what happens, and then that's another piece of the puzzle right there. But I don't know if it's official proof of evidence, but yeah, anyway, yeah. And here's another proof of possible evidence that Frank may be behind this whole thing, is that Mitch Murphy, who lives across the street, comes and, starts talking to the airline people, and maybe a day or two before that, Frank may have saw him out in the front yard playing, building a snowman, a snowboard or whatever, and asked them to come over that morning and to see the cool bands, and he probably even gave him $5 to even do this, and even Frank, he even calls his son a little jerk after the pizza incident, and it's like, man, you could obviously tell that he wants Kevin dealt with and permanently out of his life here. And it's Frank is very likely what was behind what goes on in this movie, and he likely hired Harry and Marv to rob that place so he could have Kevin killed for no extra cost. But anyway, moving on with that. Mitch lines up in front of the van so that they could do a mishead count, because Mitch obviously was the same age, same height and everything of Kevin. The perfect cover-up for him to do a mishead count so that Kevin would be left there all by himself. And he pretends to be putting on an act and all that, he even when he says, you be positive, I'll be realistic, he can obviously tell right then and there that he's out of the clear now that they've already done the head count and everything, being aware that they are under the impression at this moment that they think Kevin is with them. Which, in reality, he's still stuck at home all by himself and everything. He's 8 years old, and this has never happened to him before, and everything, and it's like, yeah, he, stuck here all by himself. And, with that being said, later, when Kate realizes that he's there all by himself, it's obvious that he's lost complete contact with human emotion. He knows that Harry and Marv now have the upper hand to rob the house and kill him in the aftermath for no extra charge, because he hates Kevin and he wants his brother's wealth. And, you know, like that part of the family fortune, so to speak, because, like I said, Frank is a very greedy man, and, you know, earlier, even before this, another piece of evidence is that he stole airline equipment by telling his wife Leslie to put it in his purse. So right there is another piece of evidence right there that shows that Frank is likely behind what goes on in this film. Because he's stealing airline equipment, he knows it ain't going to be him charged for the missing airline equipment, but his brother, Peter, who's obviously a lot more wealthy than him, a lot more successful in business finances and all that, you know, and he obviously may likely feel the same way about his other brother, Rob, in France, even in New York. But, yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, he steals airline equipment, and he even, like, tells Kate, you know, that if it makes her feel any better that he forgot his reading glasses, and he's comparing his reading glasses to a kid. Even his wife Leslie gives a look on his face like she's ashamed of him. And then Leslie tells her that she got nothing but a bunch of answering machines, and you see Frank at the phone area getting ready to presumably call his henchmen Harry and Marv, you know, rob the house and go after them, and even get so tied up and frustrated over Kevin where it'll have him killed. And yeah, like, those are other pieces of the puzzle. And another piece of the puzzle later is that when Harry and Marv run into Kevin as he's like walking home from after he had just, you know, shoplifted a toothbrush unintentionally because he ran into old man Marley. Another thing, you know, I mean, it's like Frank called, you know, Harry and Marv earlier and said that it would be absolutely great for him to rob the house because they were officially in France, even that his brother Peter was there and everything. There was nobody at the McCallister household. And anyway, it's like Harry and Marv come back, and Kevin like puts on that act and, you know, the lights on and has all that Christmas music going on and everything, playing Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And, you know, it's obvious that Frank had, before all that, told him that it was good for him to, you know, rob the house and everything. And then suddenly he's having a celebration with shrimp. And Rob's wife obviously informs him that those are for later, but he doesn't want to wait till later because he's about to have his victory, and he wants to have that victory celebration with that shrimp. And, yeah, and, you know, he even asks his brother if he had any luck, but he's really putting on an act even while he's holding that shrimp that he's having his victory celebration of, and thinking that, you know, that Harry and Marv, his henchmen, are going to successfully rob his brother's, you know, very luxurious house, and with all those goods and everything, and having a lot of his wealth, and having his nephew that he loathes killed and destroyed. And, yeah, now here's a little bit more evidence right here that could prove that he, of course, is behind all this. And it's this. After the climax, when Harry and Marv actually officially try to rob the house, they get tortured, mangled, strangled up, turned upside down, just all of the above. Just complete disarray, you know, complete discord, an abundance of hate, you know, and a lot of, you know, spiteful actions, you know, when it came to Kevin trying to, you know, like technically almost kill these guys and put them at like the borderline of death, you know. In fact, really, if any of this stuff really happened, you would be like not even able to get up even if you were still alive. and all that. So yeah, it's like he puts them in so much pain and agony and all that, and you know, now it's like you know, Kevin goes across the street to the Murphy's house because he already said that he was at the Murphy's house, and since you know he was running through towards the house, it's obvious that Harry and Marv may have called Frank from the Murphy's house, telling him what the kid had done to him, and now that they've gone from burglars to murderers, which is something you don't usually take on lightly in this case. That Frank tells them that now that you know that he stopped them from robbing his brother's house, that they had better kill his nephew and make it hurt, and that's where it came into them hanging him on that door and about to, you know, Old Man Marley saves his life with the snow by hitting him with the snow shovel, knocking him out, leaving him for the police. Harry and Marv fail. Kevin lives, and of course, his brother's house was successfully defended, and nothing was robbed out of it. And yeah, and this concludes the conspiracy theory of Uncle Frank McCallister. Now, this is only a theory. I don't know if any of this is proven to be true. I mean, really only the directors and the writers of the story would really know the information about this. This is just like my own observations. I didn't even come up with this conspiracy theory either. Lots of people, you know, kind of have hinted at this, but there's no proof or evidence of this really being accurate. So don't take any of this literally still, even if you do find this entertaining. That's about all it is for when it comes to any of these theories anyway, because there's no proof that they're non-debunked theories. I mean, that's just the way it goes when it comes to this. It's all just for the sake of entertainment and kind of going like, what if this happened and all this? What if that was really behind it? And you know, there's other conspiracy theories going on about Home Alone, like the McCallister family being an occult. You know, Old Man Marley being Kevin from the future, which that's another one of the conspiracy theories that I am a little bit into and actually kind of do agree with, because there seems to be like a little bit of a linkage between Kevin and Old Man Marley in that, like every time they interact or are around each other and all that. You can even look for that, like even on YouTube and other places across the internet, like Google search, I'm sure, and you know, and and no one's ever really hinted at this, but since all this is a conspiracy theory regarding Frank in the first movie, he could very well be behind some of what's going on in the second one too, but I will save that for another video. Until then, I hope you enjoyed the video, and Merry Christmas.